Hey, what's up guys? So in this video, I want to talk about some of the behind the scenes stuff with radar detectors, and specifically, I want to talk about beta testing. Basically the whole process with the company when they send over a product before launch, what that whole process is like. How early do they send over products? How finished are they? Why would they want to send over products in the first place? What kind of restrictions do beta testers have on being able to talk about? When are we able to talk about it? Basically just beta testing in general. So I'm not going to be able to obviously talk about every single little detail, but I want to give you kind of a higher level perspective on beta testing with radar detectors overall. Now, when it comes to beta testing in general, I've noticed it's a little bit different with every company. Plus, not every company does this in the first place. Maybe they want to keep everything in-house. They don't even want to use outside beta testers at all. But I've noticed a lot of companies do this, and I've had a chance to beta test for most of the radar detector companies out there. Now, there's fundamentally two different reasons why a company would want to use beta testers in the first place. Number one, the main reason why they would use beta testers is, well, they want people to help them improve their product. People who are knowledgeable and helpful say, hey, can we send you a detector? Test it out. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you like. Let us know if you encounter any issues. Give us a chance to fix it so that by the time we're ready to announce this detector and launch it publicly, well, it's a better detector. And so everybody winds up having a better experience, right? The customers are happier. The manufacturer is happier. You're basically investing your time and energy to help create a better product so that it's better for everybody. That is the main reason. That's what I see beta testing to be all about. And for that, you get the product usually earlier in the development process, so they have time to make any changes as needed. The other reason that companies might want to use beta testers, and this isn't necessarily beta testing specifically, but sending products out before launch, when you get closer to production, ready to launch a product, you're like, okay, well, I want a wave of good press. When I announce the product, I want a bunch of information on the internet. And so they'll maybe send out some detectors to different reviewers or YouTubers or forum members or whoever, basically giving them a chance to kind of get a jump start, a head start on their testing. And so by the time the product is ready to be announced, a bunch of test results can all come out at the same time. So that's the second reason why beta testing is traditionally done. Now, let's go ahead and start going into more detail, talking about the first one, kind of the more, let's improve a product kind of earlier in the development process. With this, usually you're going to be getting maybe a prototype, something that's not completely finished yet. You've probably got beta firmware as well. Maybe there's going to be some more bugs or there's some features that haven't been implemented yet. Basically, it's like, all right, go test it out. Let us know what you think. Give us your feedback so that we can start making changes and improvements based on that. Basically, try to find as much as you possibly can and give us a chance to improve all these little things before they wind up in the hands of the public. That is kind of the main objective fundamentally of beta testing. Now, when it comes to beta testing, it's not necessarily limited to just getting a detector before it's available to the public. It can also be things like maybe a detector that's already been available. Maybe it's been available for a year, but you want to test a new firmware. They want to add some new features or something, and they're like, hey, can you test this new firmware before we release it? Make sure it works well. I know a common one that I see sometimes is like, oh, let's say you've got MRCD in your area, but the company's not there. They may send out some beta firmwares and say, hey, can you go test this firmware? We've got a couple different filters or different ways of detecting it. Try version 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let us know what works the best in terms of detection range and filtering or whatever. And beta testers can basically help out the engineers if the engineers aren't able to actually go to the site to test your MRCD or your GATSO or your Redflex or whatever that they may not actually have access to, especially because a lot of the engineers, depending on the company, may not be in the area. They may not even be in the same country. And so that's a common way that I see beta testing can be useful as well. Now, not everything that you beta test is going to come out. Sometimes they may actually discuss product ideas for 3 or 4 different products and they're not sure what route they want to go, and maybe they would just like a little bit of insight. And so you may discuss things or hear things that may never see the light of day at all. Maybe in certain instances, this is probably more rare, but they might want to discuss some of their proprietary technologies and they would like a little bit of input and insight as well. And so you might wind up discussing that. So for all of these things, when you're discussing something that's not publicly available yet or perhaps at all, you're typically going to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. It's basically a contract, an agreement that says, while this NDA is in force, you're not allowed to talk about anything. Maybe some things just don't talk about at all, proprietary stuff, but in general, like for a new product launch or something, you'll sign an NDA that says you can test it, but you got to keep it a secret. And then at a certain day and time, you're able at this point to then start talking about this product. And you'll actually see this if you ever go on YouTube and you see suddenly a ton of people start releasing information about new phones, or there's a bunch of videos or Instagram posts about new cars. That's a lot of people under NDAs that now their embargo date has expired, and now they're allowed to actually go out and start talking about it. And so that's why you'll see the wave of press with a bunch of reviewers all releasing their information at the same time. Now that said, I've noticed with radar detectors specifically, it's a little bit different. It's a smaller niche market and things tend to be a little bit more laid back. A lot of times, they're not actually really sure when they're going to be releasing the product in the first place. They may be like, okay, well, we think we're going to release it in the fall. Maybe they will. Maybe it's going to get delayed. Sometimes they encounter different bugs, and so they got to push back the launch. Maybe there's component shortages. I'm seeing this a lot. And so they're not necessarily even able to release a detector at all. They're trying to build it, but they can't get inventory and stuff. And so for a variety of reasons, they may send you a product, but it may get pushed out indefinitely. And you as a beta tester, you have no idea when the heck this thing is going to be coming out. And you don't actually have a timeline. Even if they do give you a rough date, a lot of times they miss that date anyway. That's actually more common than not. Either way, though, when it comes to beta testing, as part of the NDA, while everything is under wraps, you can't talk about what you're testing. You can't talk about how well it works. You can't talk about when it's going to come out, because a lot of times you don't even know. That's actually the vast majority of the case. I don't know when stuff is going to be coming out unless it's like really close to launch and we're like, hey, we're going to be releasing this in 2 weeks. We've got the date set. We've got everything set up with our distributors and everything. We're just sending it now because we're really close to launch. You're getting like production ready stuff. That's pretty different. But with beta testing specifically, a lot of times you have no idea when stuff is going to come out. And for that reason, I may have an idea of like how current products compare to stuff that's going to be coming in the future. I don't know every product, of course. I don't beta test every product. But I have an idea of some stuff, but I never factor that into my recommendations on like, what detector should you buy. I always keep that limited to just whatever's available currently. There's always going to be new stuff that comes out. Some of it I know about, some of it I don't. And this is the world of tech. There's always going to be new stuff that's coming out, but I'm always trying to keep my recommendations limited to what's currently available right now. Stuff may be different tomorrow. It may be different in 2 weeks, but we'll address that then. Right now, this is the current information as far as what's available to be discussed publicly. I may know a little bit more as far as private stuff, but because of NDAs, I can't talk about it at all. And I think it would be inappropriate for me to be like, you probably shouldn't buy this detector because something else is coming out better. Like that, I think would be kind of inappropriate. And so I'm like, here's what's available now. There's always going to be something new coming out. And especially because stuff gets delayed, and especially now with the part shortage stuff, I'm like, I just focus all my stuff on here's what's available now. So I wanted to bring up that and kind of emphasize that too. And some examples of that come to mind, maybe stuff that publicly we know about. Thea, look how much that's been delayed. I mean, I'm seeing delays with a bunch of different products, and sometimes even besides Thea, I'm even still told dates that companies wind up missing. Like this definitely happens. It's become a real thing. I mean, even R7 with the auto lockouts. It was supposed to get auto lockouts. It's going to be available in the first firmware update, but then there were lawsuits and legal stuff that have to be worked out in the court system. Like there was a bunch of issues that had nothing to do with bugs at the time. It was just legal stuff. So stuff gets delayed all the time. So yeah, beta testing doesn't mean you know about what's coming out tomorrow necessarily. Now, for that reason, because stuff can be delayed, because I'm not giving concrete times on when stuff is going to be coming out, when I get closer to launch, like that's about the time when I start working on my videos and stuff. Like I have no idea a lot of times when the stuff is going to be coming out. I just get sent a detector, I test it, I give them feedback, here's my thoughts, and they do whatever with it. Maybe they improve something based on the feedback, maybe they don't. That's totally up to them, And so I'm just kind of like testing, I'm giving my feedback, cool, whatever, run one detector for a couple days, another one for a couple days. Companies, you do whatever you want to do with it. Then at some point they're like, hey, Vortex, we want to go ahead and release this detector. They gave me maybe a week of advance notice, let's say. That gives me enough time to like pause my other projects or finish them if I'm close to done and start working on my review articles and videos and tutorials and all the stuff that I want to have ready at launch. It gives me enough time to start doing that. Now, other times companies are like, all right, you can go ahead and release this information now. And I'm like, well, little advanced warning would have been nice, a little heads up. Sometimes I don't get any and they're just ready to launch. And so communication, I guess, is always good behind the scenes. But all this is to say, like, time deadlines can be really nebulous. I love having a little bit of advance warning so I can kind of get prepared with videos and stuff because that's very time consuming. And I need to start working on my thoughts. And if it's been a couple months since I reviewed the detector, I need to go back and kind of refresh my memory, like it takes time to get all the stuff ready. And so getting some advanced warning so that I have time to get my reviews and everything ready, definitely helpful. Now, the second type of beta testing, and again, this isn't really beta testing. This is the one when companies are sending out pretty much finished products to different reviewers. So whether it's a YouTuber, it's a car magazine, it's an Instagram person, it's a forum member, they're sending out essentially finished products to different reviewers, people they know that can go ahead and test the product, get their reviews. And so when the product comes out, the NDAs expire and people can go ahead and post their information. With these ones, you're usually going to be later in the development process. You've got production grade hardware. It's usually pilot production hardware, meaning it's like the first production run of different detectors. Those might go out to different reviewers. And you're usually running production grade firmware as well. It's like, okay, we've got everything ready, hardware and software ready to go. So these are production grade hardware. And again, the whole purpose here is so that when they launch the product, there's a bunch of tested information that's available. So if somebody is looking at the detector and they're like, this looks pretty cool, but I don't know how well it does, should I get it? There's a lot more information that's available for them to make a buying decision. And that's the purpose of kind of the second type of testing, if you will. I guess it's not really beta testing, but you still are under NDA for this. Now, that said, companies, they can be pretty selective. They can send it out to whoever they want or not send it out to others. I mean, like for me, for example, if a company sends me a radar detector to test beforehand, and it's something like to review production ready just before launch, to me, that sounds like a vote of confidence, because I spend a ton of time testing and reviewing something, and I'll tell you what's good, I'll tell you what's bad, I'll try to pack as much as I possibly can into the review, and it's why I talk so fast. Like, I'm trying to give you so much information without turning it into an hour-long video. So yeah, I'm trying to like put a bunch into it, good and bad. I want to tell you everything. And if a company doesn't want to send me a detector, that kind of makes me scratch my head. Like, are you concerned that there's issues? Have you not done enough testing on your own? Are you concerned that you could have sent it to me earlier? I'd do my testing and help you find some of the bugs so that we can talk about this and address it before launch. And like, that's what I would prefer, But if I don't have a chance to test it and they're like, okay, well, you got to buy it after launch, just like everybody else. Okay, I totally will. Not a big deal. It's going to delay my review from coming out because I'm going to have to spend all my time testing and reviewing after the launch instead of before. To me, I'm like, as a potential, are you trying to get your launch before I have a chance to potentially come in and mess things up? Is that what your concern is? That's a possibility, And so when I see a company sending me specifically a review sample, that I see as a vote of confidence. That tells me the company's probably pretty comfortable with the product. They think it's going to be pretty awesome. And always a risk sending out products to, reviewers before launch, including me, anybody else too. But it seems like a vote of confidence that company is pretty confident and solid in their product, thinking it's going to be good. So that's kind of how I see companies that choose to send me products or not. And obviously that's not always the case. There's companies that don't do any public beta tests at all, or maybe only send to magazines, or they only send to whatever. People can be selective with who they want to send products out to, but that's what I see specifically for me as far as companies that choose to send me products to review or not. Next, as far as kind of free products, do I get to keep the products? Do I pay for them? Typically, they are free. Most of the time, I get to keep them. Occasionally, I do send it back. Now, that said, just because you get a free product, you're still kind of paying in other ways. I mean, I invest a ton of time and energy into my testing and giving feedback to the manufacturer. I mean, so I don't pay with money, but I pay with my time and energy. So it's free, yes, but not really. Now, something that I've heard from a number of different manufacturers is that there's times when they would actually send out products to different people who wanted a beta test, but they never got any information back. They just sent out the products and then the people went dark. And that's kind of disappointing to them because they're like, well, hey, I mean, we had to pay for the detector. That's not free, right? And they're not Santa Claus. They're sending that information out, or they're sending the detectors out because they want something in return too. They want your help. They want some useful information that can ultimately help them build a better product. And if they just send out detectors and people aren't giving them anything in return, that's a loss for them. And so something that I hear from people all the time is like, how do I become a beta tester? But I'm kind of wondering a lot of times, it's like, well, why do you want to be a beta tester? Do you want to help develop things, or are you hoping to get products early before launch? Do you want to be part of a club of beta testers? Do you want to get stuff for free? There's perks. It's nice getting stuff for free. It's nice knowing about stuff ahead of time, but that's not really what beta testing is all about. It's about helping develop better products so that things wind up being better for the entire community. Okay, different reasons to do it, I guess, but how do you become a beta tester? Well, first and foremost, go out and test, with whatever you have, go out and learn how to conduct tests. Take the detectors that you have and just test all sorts of different things. Learn how to test properly. When something goes wrong in your testing, how do you fix it? How do you make sure that you're testing so that your information that you get is valid? How do you then present the results in a way that's useful for people? Try comparing different detectors. If you have only one detector, no problem. Try testing with just your one detector, but try maybe varying the settings that you have. See how the different settings that you could try could potentially impact the detector's performance in various ways. Test with whatever threats are local in your area. Basically, test the stuff that you're curious about, that you don't know, that you really want to find out. Go test that. Just literally go test. And the more you learn about testing, the better you get. And just post your information, because that's definitely going to benefit people. And maybe one day a company might say, hey, I need another beta tester. I need somebody who can maybe help me out with this specific thing. This one guy that I saw on the forum, or this guy over here on YouTube, they post some really good stuff. I think if I send them a detector, I can bring them on board and they can help me out with something. So just get to testing, and people will maybe eventually reach out to you. I mean, obviously no guarantees or anything, but if you want to test, literally just start testing with whatever you have and just let it build from there. And at some point, maybe a company would reach out to you and be like, hey, can we send you a product for free? Do you want to know about something ahead of time? Can you just help us build a better product? And if that's something you're interested in, then sure, there you go. You can set things up from there. And so basically give companies an idea of, if they're going to be sending you a product, is it going to be time well spent for them? Is it money well spent for them? Give them an idea of what they can expect by sending you a detector. And so, yeah, that's beta testing in a nutshell. It's companies sending products out to people at different stages in the development process, either to help improve the product over time, or especially before launch, or maybe even firmwares after launch, or it's maybe products that are being sent out to different reviewers, finalized products that are basically, let's get some reviews out when the product is ready to launch. And so that's kind of at least my experience with beta testing. I'm sure it's going to be different in different industries and whatnot, but I just wanted to share a little bit of some beta testing stuff in general, because I know it's something that people have been kind of asking about and curious about, so I just wanted to go ahead and put together this video here. And so, yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Always happy to talk about it. Anything that I can share, I'm more than happy to do so. And yeah, that's it for now. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you in the next video.